whoa. Hang on there, guys. Hang on. Don't knock it till you try it. Get it, knock it. Bow reference. I was planning on making arrows for this bow, but I thought, what's the point? Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I hope these jokes didn't make you quiver. Oh, holy I'm lame. Hello everyone, hope you're having a wonderful day, and today guys I'm going to be going over another banging Warden build for Remnant 2. This time we'll be utilizing range damage instead of explosive damage to bulldoze our way through Apocalypse difficulty. I did recently do an explosive Warden Archon build, and if you haven't checked that out, I highly recommend you do. It's guaranteed to blow you away! So we will be pairing up Hunter with Warden to try and get the most out of said range damage. You really do have a lot of options here to work with, but Hunter's weak spot damage, mwah. And we also will be using the brand new Genesis bow, which is arguably one of the strongest ranged weapons in the game currently, to try and blitz through Apocalypse difficulty as quickly as possible. You definitely don't have to use the Genesis bow if it doesn't tickle your pickle, but there's plenty other options that you can use, which I will get into. But like I said in the intro, don't knock it until you try it, because when the Genesis bow is in the right hand, it's friggin' dangerous. It's a seriously strong weapon. Also, we do have infinite ammo for the Genesis bow in this particular setup, because who doesn't love just being able to spam their weapon constantly without having to worry about friggin' ammo? And also, to be fair, we do have pretty decent survivability, especially with a lot of Warden's passive perks, and also the drone itself. So overall, this build is super solid, very fun to use. It might not be the best and strongest build out there on the market right now for Remnant 2, but it more than gets the job done in Apocalypse difficulty very comfortably. No sweat whatsoever. So let's jump straight into this, gentlemen. I want to talk about the fragment first, because as you can see, if you peer your little eyes down into the right corner, yes, I have a legendary fragment. So before everybody clicks off the video and starts ripping their hair out, no, in the showcase or any clips I'm showing you in this video, I am not using this legendary fragment. The main reason for that is I've only just unlocked this legendary fragment today. Literally a couple of hours before I started doing this video, I just got the legendary fragment. Thought I might as well grind it out. See if we can't get sharpshooter or jack of all trade. Brutality isn't bad. I will talk about it in a minute, but yes, do not worry. All the clips you are seeing, I am not using brutality. In fact, I will let you know if you see any clips on screen that I am using that legendary fragment. Maybe I will pop up a couple of clips now so you can see this build working with the brutality fragment, and then for the rest of the video, I might not show any clips showing this particular fragment slotted in. So brutality overall is actually a pretty good legendary fragment. You're just going to be doubling your overall DPS. So if you're doing like 4 or 5k DPS, expect that to be doubled. That is literally what brutality does. It is very, very strong, but the negative, just as this legendary fragment's name states, it is pretty brutal. Taking an extra 100% increased damage, you are very glass cannon, and as we all know, sometimes when you're trying to transport glass from point A to point B, it's going to break, and that's kind of how you feel when you are running the brutality fragment. You're deleting everything very quickly, but if something sneezes on you, you're probably fucking dead. So, but let's be real, with this particular setup that I am running, it would be much better if you had sharpshooter or jack of all trades. Sharpshooter being the best, since this is a range damage build with a range damage prism setup, but I would still like to give my thoughts on brutality. It is okay, but if you had to pick between sharpshooter, jack of all trades, and brutality, you are not picking brutality 100%. So now that I've just quickly spoken about legendary fragment, I would just go over the fragments and also the prisms that I am running with the setup. So we got range damage, fire, charge time, negative 10%. This is just going to make the Genesis bow charge up and fire its arrows quicker. And then we also have range crit chance. For the prism, I've got more range damage. We got munitions, meta, gunfighter, and mage. Mage probably doesn't need to be here. You could probably put a more range focus fragment or fusion. The reason I got mage is the Genesis bow, you are kind of using the mod. I think the mod damage would be increasing that damage as well, and just getting a little bit more mod generation for just any of your mods you want to use with a range build or the Genesis bow, I feel like is pretty beneficial. And then everything else is pretty standard: range damage, munitions for the crit chance, meta, weak spot, critical damage, and gunfighter not really needed with the Genesis bow, but if you want to slot anything else in, gunfighter is huge with the fire rate and reload speed. So let's talk about the classes. Like I mentioned in the intro, we are running Warden and Hunter. The main reason we put Warden first is just for a little bit survivability with the Prime perk. It's not really the best Prime perk, neither is Hunter's. You could put Hunter first so you could stay in the skill for longer, but I did want just a little bit more survivability, especially now that I rolled the Brutality friggin' Legendary Fragment, so I need all the survivability I can get. I am running the Drone Combat skill. The main reason I'm running the Drone Combat skill is one, this little bad boy can rain down some fire pretty well. He's going to take care of a lot of ads that might be sneaking up behind you. But the main reason we're using the combat drone is for the decreased firearm charge time by 10%. And then for the Hunter skill, we're using Hunter Shroud. Hunter Shroud, I think, works very well with this particular setup, because when we fire the Genesis bow, in the time it takes for us to recharge it again, we go back into Hunter Shroud. So we're always able to constantly fire a Genesis bow with the maximum benefit from this skill. So very, very strong skill with this setup. All the Hunter skills are going to work with this setup, but I really did like Hunter Shroud and it fits quite well. So moving on over to the armor, I'm running the Dandy Topper, the Zealot's Overcoat, the Leto Mark II leggings, and also the Fey Royal Vambraces. Also running the Constrained Heart. I also like using the Quilted Heart. You could just use Profane Heart if you don't want to use a heart as much, so you just have more lifesteal. There are just some really, really good options with your relic, but the Constrained Heart and the Quilted Heart are definitely two of my favorite. So moving on over to the weapons, and I think I said it about 1 trillion times in the intro, but we are of course using the Genesis Long Gun, or the Genesis Bow. Doesn't say bow, but let's be real, it's a fucking bow. Hence all my Archer bow puns in the intro, if you guys didn't catch on to that. So the way the Genesis bow works is you charge it up and you can fire up to 5 arrows in very quick succession with this weapon, which is where it gets a lot of its damage from. And then the main way you want to use the Genesis bow is try and use the mod as much as possible. Mega Drive is mega good. So I got a little confused because I didn't fucking read the mod when I first tried this weapon. You need to activate it when you're looking at a target. I was over here spamming my mod button and wondering why the fuck it wasn't doing anything. I thought the weapon was bugged. I should have just read the mod and it would have told me how it worked, which I did after I realized it wasn't working. So you do need to make sure you are looking at a target, then use your mod and it will activate. If you don't, obviously it's not going to work. So the way this mod works is you're going to apply this entanglement like debuff to the enemy, and then whenever you shoot at them, or anywhere else for that matter, once the arrows impact, they will redirect back at the entangled target, dealing 35% of base primary fire damage. So that is why this weapon is so strong, because if you use this mod on the target that you are firing at and you keep laying arrows into them, there's going to keep ricocheting back into the original target. This is one of the big reasons why this weapon is so much fun and also so strong to use. We have kitted this out with the Supercharger Mutator. This is going to decrease charge time for bows and fusion rifles by 30%. This is massive. And then also primary shots are going to gain 15% increased critical strike chance. So very strong mutator for just about every fusion rifle and bow in the game. So for a melee weapon, we do have Krell-Axe, and we've kitted Krell-Axe out with the Tainted Blade Mutator, so we are able to apply the corrosive dot on the target, which does give us a 10% increase to all of our damage. So theoretically, you could use Hunter Spear. I do like Krell-Axe just a little bit more in certain scenarios because it does throw a bit quicker. And then last but not least, everyone's favorite piss spraying gun, the Nebula.
No! God, please, no! No!
I know a lot of you probably hate seeing the Nebula in just about every single build, but it is just that strong, unfortunately. I did try using the Corrupted Rune Pistol because Deathbrand is going to further increase our overall damage by 10%. That's 10% that we don't have, but of course, Nebula still pulls out ahead with the fact that its mods are just able to fly around and attack enemies for you, which does in turn increase your overall DPS slightly. So I think I don't need to explain this. I think we all know how Nebula works. I do have Feedback Mutator just so we can try and get our mod power back a little bit faster, since that is the main way we are going to be using this this handgun. Is we're just going to be spamming the mod as soon as it's up, because that is going to help increase our overall DPS over time. Plus it saves us throwing the Krell-Axe every fucking 15 seconds to get that corrosive dot. The Nebula's mod just does the heavy lifting for us. Now to move on over to the juicy stuff, the rings and the amulet. So most of this is probably stuff you guys have already seen. It's in base game. There's only really one new item from the DLC here, which I'll touch on a little bit. So for the amulet, we do have the Zero Divide. Zero Divide is going to be one of the best amulets they've added in for range damage builds. The fact that you get infinite ammo reserves, so you never ever have to worry about picking up ammo management. If a boss fight's going on too long and you run out of ammo, you never have to worry about that when you are running Zero Divide. I do have Dried Clay Ring here. You don't need this. Remember, I'm trying to get a little bit more defense because of brutality now. Since I was testing it out, Dried Clay Ring seemed to be the best fit for me. What I was running before I got that legendary fragment was Burden of the Destroyer. This is just great to get an easy 15% damage increase. I do have Braided Thorns, which is going to increase critical strike chance by 10%. We've got Archer's Crest, which is going to improve our charge time of our bow. And then last but not least, the new ring, the new boy on the block here is Tolerance Band. This is going to decrease charge time by another 10%, and it's going to increase your perfect charge window. So you might be scratching your head a little bit wondering what the hell that actually means. So whenever you're actually charging a bow, when it just fully charges and you release it or you shoot, you will get a perfect shot. So the Tolerance Band is basically just increasing that window, so it is just a little bit easier to get those perfect shots without really thinking about it too much. So the Tolerance Band is a pretty strong ring, especially if you are running like any kind of bow build. You don't need it, but it definitely helps to try and incorporate this ring if you can, because getting those perfect window shots with the bow is going to actually do more damage. And then some other options you can take over the Genesis bow, just in case it doesn't tickle your pickle. I would highly recommend the Corrupted Savior. I personally really do enjoy this long gun. It is very, very strong. And then also the Plasma Cutter. The Plasma Cutter is also another fantastic option. I'd say Plasma Cutter is probably one of the best options you can take. But those are the two substitutes I would use over the Genesis, either Corrupted Savior or the Plasma Cutter. There's probably loads of other long guns that you can use, but those are definitely the three I am enjoying right now. So just quickly going over the traits, we've got 5 points into Affliction, maxed out Fortify, we're maxing out Gifted. This is just so we can stay in Hunter's Shroud a little bit longer, which is going to increase our damage a lot more. We've got 3 points into Strongback, I've got 9 points into Vigor, I've got 7 additional points into Endurance, I've got 3 additional points into Spirit, I've got 8 additional points into Expertise, maxed out Bark Skin. We need all the damage reduction I can get now with Brutality Legendary Fragment, but still a fantastic trait to take regardless. Maxed out Chakra so we can have our mods out as long as possible, and maxed out Siphoner so we can have 3% lifesteal, which does help with survivability. And that is basically it for the build video, guys. Hopefully this build did help you guys out. I had a lot of fun putting this build together. I'm sorry for putting another Genesis bow build on the map, but it's just such a fun weapon to use, and I really wanted to try and put a build together that wasn't just Hunter and Gunslinger. But let's be honest, Hunter and Gunslinger is what you're going to use if you want the most amount of damage out of any range build. It sucks that it is that way, but it is what it is. But Warden and Hunter works just as well. You could use Warden and Gunslinger. You could really use anything else besides Hunter and Gunslinger. But of course, Hunter and Gunslinger is definitely up the top of the food chain when it comes to range build. So now I am patiently waiting for this update to come out, whether it's this week or next week. I'm not sure anyone really knows, but I'm also crossing my fingers and my toes that they don't nerf the Genesis. Otherwise, I'm going to look like a fucking idiot in this video. Please, Gunfire, don't make me look like a fool. Appreciate all love and support as always, guys. And until next time, stay safe. Peace out.